The scream lodged in my throat like a jagged shard of glass, silent but slicing me open from the inside. I stood frozen in the hallway of our cozy suburban home, the one we'd picked out together with dreams of white picket fences and laughter echoing through the rooms. My hand hovered over the doorknob to the study, where I'd come to surprise Ethan with a cup of his favorite chamomile tea, decaf, because he claimed caffeine kept him up at night, though I'd caught him guzzling espresso shots in secret more than once. But now, the tea steamed forgotten in my grip as his voice slithered through the cracked door, low and conspiratorial, laced with a smugness I'd never heard before. "Mom, Dad, you don't get it. Marrying her is the smartest move I've made. Her family's loaded old money from that tech empire her dad built. Once we're hitched, I'll have access to all of it. And the prenup. She's so in love, she'll sign anything I put in front of her. Trust me, this is my ticket out of the rat race." His parents' laughter crackled over the speakerphone, tinny and approving, like the sound of crumpling foil wrapping a poisoned gift. "We're proud of you, son," his father said, voice booming with that false heartiness I'd always found grating. "Just make sure she doesn't catch on. Women like her are emotional. Could blow the whole thing." I backed away, the tea spilling hot over my fingers, but I barely felt the burn. My heart hammered against my ribs, a wild animal trapped in a cage too small. How could this be Ethan? My Ethan, with his boyish grin and the way he'd trace lazy circles on my back during lazy Sunday mornings. The man who'd proposed on a rainy beach in Maui, kneeling in the sand with tears in his eyes, swearing I was his everything. Betrayal hit like a tidal wave, drowning me in humiliation that prickled my skin, hot and unrelenting. I stumbled to the kitchen, dumping the tea down the sink, watching the liquid swirl away like the life I'd imagined. That night, as we lay in bed, his arm draped possessively over my waist, I stared at the ceiling, the shadows from the street lamp outside dancing like mocking specters. Denial whispered first. Maybe I'd misheard, maybe it was a joke, a twisted family banter. But the words replayed in my mind, sharp as knives. Her family's loaded. My ticket out. Heartbreak clawed at my chest, a raw, aching void where trust had once bloomed. I turned to study his sleeping face, peaceful and handsome, the faint stubble I'd always loved scratching against my cheek. How long had this been his plan? We'd met at a charity gala 2 years ago, introduced by mutual friends. He'd seemed genuine, a mid-level accountant with ambitions but no pretensions. Or so I'd thought. By morning, resentment had taken root, twisting like weeds in cracked soil. I poured his coffee with a smile, my hand steady despite the storm inside. "How was your call with your parents last night?" I asked casually, stirring in the 2 sugars he liked. He glanced up from his phone, eyes flickering. "Just a millisecond, but enough." "Oh, just the usual. They send their love." His voice was smooth, too smooth, like oil on water. I nodded, biting back the fury bubbling up. Humiliation burned hotter now. I felt like a fool, a pawn in his game. My family wasn't just wealthy. We were influential, with connections that could make or break careers. Dad had built a cybersecurity firm from nothing, and I'd inherited his sharp mind, though I'd chosen a quieter path as a freelance graphic designer. Ethan knew that. He'd exploited it. As days blurred into a haze of forced normalcy, obsession crept in. I replayed the conversation obsessively, dissecting every word, every inflection. At work, my designs turned darker, jagged lines, shadowed figures, mirroring the turmoil inside. I started digging subtly, checking his browser history when he showered, finding searches for ironclad prenups, and divorce laws in community property states. Each discovery fueled the fire, turning heartbreak into a cold, simmering rage. But guilt nipped at the edges. Was I overreacting? People married for money all the time. Maybe he loved me too in his way. No, the lie stung too deep. He'd mocked my emotions to his parents, reduced me to a bank account. One evening, as rain pelted the windows like accusatory fingers, I sat in the dim glow of my laptop, the cursor blinking mockingly. Fantasies of justice swirled. confronting him publicly, slashing his tires or worse, exposing him to his boss, who happened to be an old family friend. But doubt held me back. What if I was wrong? Fear whispered of the fallout, the pitying looks from friends, the loneliness of starting over. Yet, beneath it all, a cold resolve hardened. I wouldn't be the victim. Play his game better. I began planning in quiet moments, the house's silence amplifying my thoughts. The living room, with its plush velvet couch and framed photos of us smiling on vacations, felt like a stage set for deception. I touched the silver frame from our trip to Paris, remembering how he'd whispered promises under the Eiffel Tower. Now those memories soured, tainted by his hidden motives. I researched discreetly, using incognito mode. How to trace financial trails, hire private investigators without a trace. Moral conflict gnawed, revenge wasn't me. I was the girl who forgave too easily, who saw the good in people. But this betrayal cracked that facade, revealing a sharper edge. Subtle hints of my unraveling emerged. At dinner with friends, I laughed a beat too late, my eyes lingering on Ethan as he charmed the table with stories of our perfect life. "You're so lucky," Sarah gushed, squeezing my hand. I forced a smile, but inside resentment boiled. How dare he parade me like a trophy? That night, alone in the bathroom, steam from the shower clouding the mirror, I wiped a streak clear and stared at my reflection. Eyes hollow, lips pressed thin. Obsession turned to strategy. I'd let him think everything was fine, draw him deeper into his web, then strike. Weeks passed in a slow burn of tension. I suggested we elope, watching his reaction. Eagerness veiled as romance. "Why wait?" I cooed, tracing his jawline. He agreed too quickly, his kiss tasting of calculation. Guilt flickered when he brought home flowers, murmuring apologies for working late. Was there real affection there? But the memory of his words to his parents extinguished it. I hired a PI anonymously, paying in cash from a hidden account. The report arrived in a plain envelope, slipped under my doormat like a venomous snake. Flipping through the pages in the park, away from prying eyes, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot, I uncovered layers of deceit. Ethan had debts, gambling, bad investments, hidden from me. He'd been courting other women online, nothing physical yet, but flirtations laced with hints of escape. Heartbreak surged anew, mingled with fury that made my hands tremble. This wasn't just opportunism. It was a calculated con. Back home, as he hummed in the kitchen making pasta, our special dish, I suppressed the urge to shatter the plates. Instead, I smiled, plotting. Inner conflict peaked one stormy night. Thunder rattled the windows as I lay awake, Ethan's snores rhythmic beside me. Fantasies morphed. Not violence, but ruin, financial, social, emotional. I'd expose him, but cleverly, making it seem like his own undoing. Doubt assailed. Was I becoming the monster? Moral grayness settled like fog. Revenge felt justified, yet tainted. But resolve won. I'd start small, planting seeds of doubt in his world. The next day, I accidentally left my phone unlocked, with a text from a fictional lawyer about prenup revisions. He didn't mention it, but I saw the flicker in his eyes over breakfast, the coffee mug pausing mid-sip. Tension coiled tighter, the air between us thick with unspoken accusations. I volunteered for his company's charity event, mingling with his colleagues, dropping subtle hints about his ambitions. Whispers spread like ripples in a pond. As part one drew toward its midpoint, the slow burn ignited sparks. At a family dinner with my parents, Ethan schmoozed effortlessly. His hand on my knee under the table, a possessive squeeze. But I caught his glance at my father's Rolex, covetous and quick. Humiliation flared. I excused myself to the bathroom, gripping the sink until my knuckles whitened. There, in the marble-veined mirror, I whispered my vow. He'd pay. Planning escalated. I transferred small sums from joint accounts, covering tracks with fabricated expenses. Obsession consumed my days. Designs at work suffered, clients complaining of delays. Guilt over neglecting my life warred with the thrill of control. Fear of discovery loomed. What if he found out? But cold resolve pushed forward. Subtle foreshadowing appeared in dreams. Him begging for mercy, me walking away unscathed. By the end of part 1, the stage was set. We'd set a wedding date 3 months out. He beamed oblivious. But as I watched him sleep that night, the rain pattering like a countdown, I knew. Revenge was coming, quiet and inexorable. The wedding invitations arrived in crisp ivory envelopes, gold embossed with our initials intertwined like a noose. I traced the letters with a finger, the paper smooth and cool against my skin, a stark contrast to the heat of resentment simmering in my veins. Ethan hovered behind me, his breath warm on my neck. "They look perfect, babe. Just like us." His voice dripped with feigned sincerity, but I heard the undercurrent, the calculation of a man closing in on his prize. I turned, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Absolutely. Can't wait." Inside, obsession had evolved into a meticulous blueprint. The PI's report burned a hole in my hidden safe, detailing his embezzlement from past jobs. Small amounts, but enough to blacklist him. I'd gathered more. Emails to his parents plotting asset transfers post-wedding, even a side account funneled from business expenses. Heartbreak had calcified into cold resolve, but guilt lingered like a shadow, whispering that 2 wrongs didn't make right. Moral conflict raged. Was I justified or just vengeful? Suspense built in quiet calculations. I suggested a joint financial advisor, watching his hesitation. "For our future," I said sweetly over dinner, the candlelight flickering across his face like interrogating spotlights. He agreed, but his fork scraped the plate too loudly, betraying nerves. That night, as sirens wailed distantly in the city, I hacked his email, using skills from Dad's firm I'd never admitted to. Subtle changes. Forwarded copies to an anonymous Dropbox, planting digital breadcrumbs. Layered motives emerged in conversations. At brunch with his parents, who flew in for pre-wedding planning. His mother patted my hand, her rings digging like claws. "We're so thrilled, dear. Ethan's always been our ambitious boy." Her smile was saccharine, but her eyes appraised me like merchandise. I nodded, suppressing rage, but later, alone in the guest room folding linens, humiliation washed over me anew. They were in on it, a family conspiracy. Resentment deepened. Revenge now encompassed them all. Pacing quickened with rising tension. I discovered an old photo album in storage, filled with pictures of Ethan's exes, all from affluent backgrounds. Coincidence? I teased lightly, but my voice held an edge. He laughed it off, but sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning's hum. Inner thoughts tormented. Fantasies of his ruin mingled with doubt. What if love lingered beneath his greed? But evidence mounted, a late-night call I overheard, him assuring a friend. "Once the ink's dry, I'm set for life." Strategic moves unfolded cinematically. In the bustling coffee shop where we'd had our first date, steam rising from lattes like ghosts of better times, I met the PI again. He slid a folder across the scarred wooden table. Proof of infidelity, photos of Ethan with a woman at a bar, hands intertwined. Heartbreak stabbed fresh, but I channeled it into action. "Make it airtight," I instructed, my voice steady amid the clatter of cups. Obsession peaked. Sleep evaded me, the bedroom's silk sheets tangling like restraints. Guilt assaulted during quiet moments, staring at our engagement photo on the nightstand. His arm around me, both grinning. Was I destroying a redeemable man? Moral grayness blurred lines. Revenge felt poetic, yet destructive. Fear crept in. What if it backfired, leaving me exposed? Hints of vengeance surfaced subtly. I delayed signing the prenup, citing work stress, watching his frustration mount. At a pre-wedding party, laughter echoing off the rented hall's crystal chandeliers, I whispered to his boss about concerns over company funds. Anonymous, of course. Whispers spread, eyes darting his way. He pulled me aside, gripped tight on my arm. "What's going on?" You seem distant. His eyes searched mine, a mix of concern and calculation. Nothing, love. I lied, heart pounding. Suppressed rage boiled beneath the surface, but I held it, letting tension simmer. The climax approached like a gathering storm. 2 weeks before the wedding, I executed the plan. First, an anonymous tip to his employer. Forged documents implicating him in fraud, traced back to his own IP, courtesy of my hacks. He came home pale, slamming the door, the wood vibrating with his fury. I've been suspended. Some bullshit investigation. His voice cracked, revealing vulnerability I'd rarely seen. I feigned shock, hugging him, but inside, cold resolve thrilled. We'll get through it, I murmured, stroking his back while envisioning the next strike. That night, as thunder rumbled outside, mirroring my turmoil, I confronted his parents via a planted email chain, exposing their complicity. They called, frantic voices echoing through the speaker. "Ethan, what have you done?" his mother wailed. He paced the living room, carpet muffling his steps, face ashen. Guilt flickered in me, destroying a family, but betrayal's scar hardened my heart. The twist unfurled dramatically. On the eve of our wedding, I packed a bag in secret, the zippers rasped like a final judgment. He found me in the bedroom, suitcase open. "What's this?" Panic laced his words. I faced him, voice calm but laced with ice. "I heard you, Ethan. That call with your parents. Every word." Shock widened his eyes, denial forming on his lips. But I continued, revealing the evidence. Photos, emails, the PI's dossier spread on the bed like confetti of ruin. You set me up?" His voice broke, a mix of rage and fear. For a moment, his facade cracked, showing the boy beneath the con man. Motivated by desperation from a dysfunctional family, debts piling like unpaid bills. Moral conflict surged. Poetic justice tasted bittersweet. "You betrayed me first," I said, but doubt whispered, had I gone too far? In a shocking pivot, he dropped to his knees, tears streaming. "I did love you at first. But the pressure. I got lost." Heartbreak echoed in his admission, layered with regret. But it was too late. I walked out into the rain-slicked night, umbrella forgotten, water mingling with my tears. Behind me, his world crumbled. Job lost, reputation shattered, family estranged. Unexpected consequences hit. Friends sided with him, painting me the villain. Isolation gripped, but freedom bloomed. Months later, in a new city, the sun warming my skin through cafe windows, I reflected. Revenge delivered justice, but at a cost. My innocence scarred. Yet, in the quiet, resolve lingered. Better broken than betrayed.